removal projects to date, as the sounders had been educated by 3 different sources. First, there was a high population of dog hunters in the area, which pressured hogs every weekend and changed their feeding and movement patterns. Second, gun hunters only shot adult sows at automatic feeders, which made the rest of the sounder negatively associate bait sites to danger areas. Lastly, the landscape was littered with these 5x10 portable traps, which only captured a few juveniles, but educated the adults to avoid future metal contraptions. The first step of our capture success matrix is to condition hogs to trust a daily food source. We erected this feeder on 10 January to begin collecting intel and documented very odd behavior during the next 6 weeks. There were 6 different sounders using the bait site, but they only visited the area once every 7 to 9 days. One week we counted 25 hogs, then the next it was only 19. Total, we counted 40 different pigs from 6 separate sounders. We shot these 3 motherless pigs as they were isolated by themselves at a midday food plot 200 yards from the bait site. We erected our standard 35-foot diameter enclosure between 2 heavily used trails. 2 mine gates were placed at opposite ends of the trap to allow 2 separate entrances and exits. Hopefully this strategy would overcome the PhD education in trap avoidance these hogs had previously learned. Notice we carefully camouflaged both gate entrances and T-posts with pine trees and branches. We timed and tested our camera transmitter to both gate receivers for simultaneous discharge, then hand-mated with soured corn to begin step 2 of our capture success matrix. We knew conditioning hogs to trust the corral enclosure as a daily food source would be more difficult, as the sounders only visited the bait area 1 day per week and already associated feeders and traps to danger. The first sounder visit to the enclosure took place on 28 February at 18:55. These 19 juveniles entered both gates of the enclosure and nervously fed for approximately 40 minutes before quietly leaving. The second visit to the enclosure took place on March 2nd at 19:16. These juveniles were from the 19 pig sounder and the 6 pig sounder. At 22:14, they spooked for no apparent reason and quickly departed the trap. Notice a few pigs from the new sounder become confused about the exit locations. This negative experience will sometimes make pigs more apprehensive to enter the enclosure next time. These 15 pigs are from a completely different sounder. They enter the enclosure on March 3rd at 18:23. Notice the black boar in the background completely avoiding the trap. March 2nd and 3rd was a Saturday and a Sunday. Watch their nervous behavior and listen to their vocalizations as they enter the enclosure on the following Friday night, March 8th at 21:04. This behavior was becoming very frustrating for our team. We had good intel on their numbers with 37 pigs from 6 different sounders and 4 different adult sows, but only juveniles were using the bait site 1 day per week, and usually on the weekends. The only logical conclusion was these hogs were pressured by dog or gun hunters from another location and only showed up to our location on the weekends. We decided to drop the gates the next time we had 25 or more hogs inside the enclosure using this intel. These hogs show up 1 week later on Friday night, 15 March at 19:31. Here is footage of sow number 2 refusing to enter the enclosure yet again. This camera has been at the enclosure for over 2 weeks, and she acts as if this is the first time she notices it. We distinguish each sounder by uniquely marked pigs. Notice the white Poland China gilt between the feeder legs at 19:37. Last week was the first time her sounder entered the enclosure. Finally, at 19:54, the white Poland China exits and sow number 1 has entered the enclosure for the first time. She is the red hamp standing at the top of the screen between the feeder legs with a white belt across her shoulders. We believe there are now 31 pigs inside the enclosure, and we are waiting on the last 3 juveniles to enter. The white Poland China or sound number 2 delivered an alert grunt from outside the enclosure and eliminated our best trapping opportunity to date. Only a fraction of the pigs returned to feed for another 10 minutes and were incredibly nervous the entire time. Here is a rare look at sow number 3 at 1959. She never entered the enclosure during the entire month of trapping operations. The sounder exits the enclosure, leaving bait on the ground. The next trapping opportunity took place 9 days later on Sunday night, 24 March, at 22:14. Notice how incredibly nervous the sounder appears. This was only the 6th time pigs had been at this location during the past 4 weeks. Farmers had already begun planting corn, and we knew trapping chances would diminish in future weeks. We changed our mission focus to capture as many of the remaining 37 hogs as possible in the trap enclosure, and then shoot the rest during thermal operations at night. The group returns 2 minutes later at 22:16 and cautiously enters the gate threshold. We currently have 21 pigs feeding inside the enclosure and 7 more still outside. 2 minutes later at 22:18, these 4 pigs enter while 3 remain outside. We observe the bait site for an additional 6 minutes, calculating our odds at capturing the entire sounder. The past month's intel of nervous behavior from surrounding hunting and trapping pressures, combined with lessons learned from last week's missed opportunity, along with increased corn planting acreage, told us the smartest decision was to capture this group and attempt to shoot the remaining 12 during thermal operations. At 22:24, we simultaneously dropped both mine gates to capture 25 pigs. This is one of the few times our team did not immediately kill pigs inside the enclosure because we knew it would be impossible to trap the remaining 12. Leaving pigs inside a trap overnight destroys the opportunity to capture another sounder for 2 reasons. First, even domestic pigs are intelligent enough not to urinate or defecate where they eat or sleep. Their bathroom area is always located outside their feeding and bedding areas. Second, leaving pigs inside a trap overnight allows them to communicate distress to others in the area. Many of our subscribers have asked to hear these vocalizations. Here was a perfect opportunity to deliver these sounds. We killed these 25 inside the enclosure on the morning of 25 March. We then shot the remaining 12 at an adjacent location a few weeks later during thermal operations at night. Combined with the 3 juveniles shot in February, we still achieved 100% success by removing 40 of 40 hogs in the area. We needed to demonstrate the integrated pest management approach by using multiple methods and technologies when traditional hunting and trapping pressures from surrounding locations produced erratic behavior and trap avoidance. High volume feral hog control is more art than science.
Thank you.